Elon Musk. Alright. So this guy cannot function. I'm not convinced that this person is like a functional real life dude that lives in any kind of reasonable reality, and to be fair, he lives a very, very different life than, the majority of literally everybody. Bill Maher. And Bill Maher seems to me to have become a statistic. Particularly in that he's got money, he's gotten older, and as those things happen, you become more conservative. Because you want to maintain the status quo, because the status quo is what got you where you are and is what is going to keep you where you are. A lot of his more recent takes have seemed at best out of touch. His comments on millennials are usually like way out in left field and very aggressive for somebody who's in another world seems like he would be very much on their side. Take that for what you will when America only really has conservative, like corporate conservative, and extreme conservative. They don't really have anything outside of that.
This woke mind virus, how did it start? Was it bats? Was it a escape from a lab? I mean, what is your assessment of what? Because it's fairly recent. How did it start and why?
All right, rough start. The woke mind virus is a conservative made-up term for anything they don't like. The way Bill Maher comes across here is that he's not asking what is it and where is it, like, and how did it come about. He's saying this thing already exists and why.
I was trying to figure out where it's coming from. I think it's actually been a long time brewing, in that it's. I think it's been going on for a while. The amount of indoctrination that's happening in schools and universities is, I think, far beyond what parents realize.
Indoctrination in schools and universities. He is Rez says making up bullshit on the fly is known to cause stammering. Yeah. This seems to be like a growth, a tumor that has grown and fallen off and grown its own legs off of the regular and well-known, well-documented phenomenon that people who are educated tend to be more liberal. Facts of the matter are the facts of the matter, and the liberal side wants to make changes, and the conservative side doesn't. That's the whole point of being a conservative. That you're trying to conserve. That's just what it is by its very nature. Like trans people and gay people and bi people, LGBTQ plus people were there the whole time. Like, when people say that, and this is the type of thing that that Bill Maher would say. He'd be on like there's been a huge rise in trans people, and they weren't there before. And it's like, no, they were there. They were always there. Oh, but it's indoctrination of our people. So now that they think that this thing is okay, they're pushing it, and that's why the number's gone up. No, the number's gone up because they're allowed to be there, and they have access to the things that they need access to now. The same reason that divorce skyrocketed when people were allowed to divorce. Using statistics in this way for rhetoric is dishonest, because you're not presenting like what question was asked, who was it asked to, what's the context of the number. Like, it's not indoctrination that's happening, because that's a word that gets thrown around. And I recommend, if you want to learn about indoctrination and kind of learn a little bit more cult mentality, which Elon Musk is 100% pulling the cult of personality thing, right? Like, that's all over the place. But if you want to talk about indoctrination, you need to talk about like abuse, right? You need to talk about, well, where do you draw these lines? What's the difference between education and indoctrination? And if you don't know the difference between education and indoctrination, like Elon Musk apparently doesn't seem to know, maybe you should educate yourself. Go check out Chris Shelton's channel on YouTube. He does a lot of talking about indoctrination and cult behavior and mentalities and where it applies and where it doesn't apply. I definitely recommend checking that out because this kind of stuff is applicable across the board.
I sort of came to realize this somewhat late. The experience that we had in high school and college is not the experience that kids today are having, and hasn't been for, I don't know, 10 years, maybe 20 years.
And why is that? What's the thing that's changed? Could it be economic status? Could it be technological advancement? How old is this man? Hold on, I need to find out how old Elon Musk is. I don't know off the top of my head. He's 51. And where did Elon Musk go to school? Did he go to school in America? Guys aren't gonna believe this. Google lists his high school education as Pretoria Boys High School. If I had to guess, I would not have even been this close, and I should be. I should have been, like, I don't know what I was expecting, but it should have been this. Oh my god, Grounds Gallery. Oh, yes, show me. The high school that kids are experiencing in America right now is not the high school that I experienced when I was growing up. What? Nani? I just don't understand. I'm dead. Oh no. Nice pool, fucker. 6,750 per month over 10 months. For Form 1 and 2 school fees. 3 and 4 and boarding combined fees. Boarding fees, 80,600 per year. Basketball, climbing, cricket, cross country, fencing. You went to a school with fencing, golf, hockey, rugby, squash. You fucking losers. Swimming, table tennis, and water polo. Traditional boys' school located in an 85-acre campus southeast of the city center, established in 1901. It is one of the oldest schools in the province, with an enrollment of about 15,000 pupils. There's only 1,500. It is the largest boys' school in South Africa. The school prides itself on maintaining exceptional standards, and it is illustrated through our ethos of holistic education based on the fundamental pillars of a full academic, cultural, and sporting program. PBHS is a public school with additional funding generated through school fees. 3 boarding houses provide accommodations for over 300 pupils. So yes, school for Elon Musk in the 80s, high school in the 80s for Elon Musk was very, very different in his all-boys, his South African expensive as shit school. And like, it's just different for American kids and their regular public school. Fucking wow. I'm baffled. I'm amazed by this. Imagine that.
I don't know, 10 years, maybe 20 years. So,
Aren't parents themselves also a big part of the problem?
well, I suppose in some cases that parents, but I think like the parents are just generally not aware of what their kids are being taught, or what they're not being taught.
But they're letting the kids think that they're equal.
Yeah, let me.
I'm sorry, did he just say they're letting the kids think that they're equal? Yes. Good? Why shouldn't they be equal, Bill Maher? I mean, there's something to be said about teaching kids about equity and saying that different kids come from different households, and that means they've grown up differently and may have access to one thing or another. But a school should be a place where all kids ought to be able to be treated equally and fairly. If anywhere. Since, like, you're not going to get treated equally once you're out of school, and you're not necessarily being treated outside of school at that age equally anyway, I think that that experience would be very valuable, and that it should be equal no matter how rich you are or what your last name is. You ought to be treated equally, particularly in high school. Because realistically, high school kids don't really give a shit if you're... But one thing that is pure about high school kids is that high school kids do not give a single flying fuck about you or your feelings. They don't care how much fucking money you have. If they don't like you, and you're gonna be like, get fucked. I think that's... There's something pure about that. It's just like, the politics don't matter. Get fucked. Like, you're not better than anybody else. You're a shitty high school student. I'm a shitty high school student. Go eat a dick. Blessed be the high school children.
But they're letting the kids think that they're equal.
I mean, yeah. Let me give you an example that a friend of mine told me, which his daughters go to college go to high school in the Bay Area, and he was asking them, like, well, so who are the first few presidents of the United States? They could name Washington, and I said, well, what do you know about him? Well, he was a slave owner. What else?
Right. Exactly.
Nothing.
Right.
I'm like, okay, that's maybe you should know.
So, because a kid didn't remember something on 3 levels of hearsay, I don't think that Elon Musk has a normal conversation with any other human being, so I already don't believe... I think this is a conversation he made up in the shower. Just because a kid doesn't remember something, or remembers this piece of pertinent information when you question them about it in that kind of a way, they're not going to remember everything they were taught. They're never going to remember everything that they were taught or everything that was talked about. They just remembered the thing that they thought was important to them. So maybe it's important to that kid, and that's going to be different depending on the kid. So what?
What else?
Right. Exactly.
Nothing.
Right.
I'm like, okay, that's maybe you should know more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. That is the woke
Why?
mind virus. Exactly.
Why? Why should you know more than that? What do you need to know about Washington? So, like, what is the important, pertinent information that you need to know in history, right? Maybe it's not important that Washington was a slave owner. Maybe it is. And those things will matter depending on the context of that current society. So if society is trying to fix racial issues and trying to fix a whitewashed history, then it makes sense, because it's not like there's only white people that live in America, right? It makes sense to correct that, and then once it's corrected in the general society, you can pick and choose what is going to be the next thing to focus on, right? It makes sense right now for America and the American education system to focus on racial issues and racial context, because that racial context was removed. That's not a reason to not teach that, that's just a reason to teach more, maybe. I mean, you can pick and choose what is more or less important about historical figures, about what is contextually relevant, both in the time period and how that is applicable to current sentiment. And, like, history is always going to be viewed through the lens of whoever is looking at it. And so if society has a current problem and that current problem stems from the first president, then you're going to need that context to be able to fix that in the future. It's simple as that. But then again, you have, like, fucking rich white doofus number 1 and rich white doofus number 2 being like, we don't need to know that white people owned slaves in the past because we don't need to fix race issues because race issues in this country aren't even real. And it's like, yeah, okay. Sure, Jan. Anyway, Elon Musk is a fucking dipshit, and nobody should listen to anything he says about anything literally ever. Just throw the whole baby out with that bathwater, because there's not really any baby there. In fact, just, like, take his fortune and disseminate it to everybody, because fuck this guy. And fuck his companies. All of them. And this is just Elon Musk talking out of his ass.